Well, welcome everybody to the Bike Walk Commission meeting for February. I'm Tanner Thompson. I'm the chair of the commission. We have a few other commissioners here today as well, along with several guests and some members of the public. Looking forward to a good meeting today. The first thing on the agenda is approving the minutes from our last meeting in January, which were linked to from the agenda that was sent out. Delene is our diligent note keeper. Thank you, Delene, for taking notes and for posting them. Can I have a motion to comment or to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thanks, Judd.
Okay.
We have a second. Ah, Nancy made it. Welcome,
Hey.
Nancy, and welcome, Christine. Christine made it.
Delene, she's there under my name. I don't know if you can switch her out.
Yep, I'll change her now.
Okay. And Colin is on his way. And Tanner, you know anything about Sam?
I don't.
You keep going with the meeting. I'll get in touch with Sam.
Okay. I still do need a second though for the minutes.
That would be Chris.
Christine. Christine has put her hand up.
Second.
Great. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Great. I think that's all three commissioners that we have right now.
Yes.
So we will call that unanimous. Great. Next item is public comment. So I think if you remember the public, I think the way this works is you raise your hand within Zoom and we'll go one at a time. Oh, we have, our attendees have showed up. There we are. Okay, so Mike Mushak has his hand up. Delene, can you unmute Mike or promote him to a panelist, however that works?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Mike.
Good. So I guess you can't see me though, right?
Regrettably, yes.
Okay, that's all right. I have my camera on, but usually I'm a panelist, usually not a member of the public. So I guess I'll just talk. There's two things I wanted to, oh, hold on one second, sorry. Okay, two things I want to address. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, good. One is the 715 interchange. And starting about 13 years ago, the state was going to do a cloverleaf there, which was a kind of an obsolete solution. I was involved in opposing that. It was a 1930s, actually the first cloverleaf in America, I believe, was in 1938 and was right at that same location, except at Main Avenue, because Super 7 didn't exist. And then, years later, the state, as a result of a lawsuit by the Merritt Parkway Conservancy, had come up with a cloverleaf, which I found, or not me, but lots of people found dangerous and inadequate. So the state went back to the drawing board. And then I want to just say that I do like the alternative 26, that is the least intrusive and least expensive solution. Except that I want to know if the state had looked at roundabouts instead of traffic lights. Traffic lights are dangerous. They can lead to really serious accidents and death. And roundabouts can be used for high volume highway interchanges like this. According to the Federal Highway Administration, has a publication called Roundabouts, an Informational Guide. That's 22 years old, but it's RD 00067. They recommend double lane roundabouts up to 45,000 average daily traffic. That's about where I think we are on this. I looked at the traffic counts on Route 7 and the feeders from the Merritt. But since then, the Minnesota and Wisconsin and Indiana and Florida, states all around the country, and of course, countries around the world have been installing a lot more roundabouts, and there's a lot more research. So Minnesota actually recommends roundabouts up to 80,000 ADT, and over that grade separated ramps and interchange, which is what the alternate 21D is. But I don't think we're anywhere near 80,000 cars in the average daily. And I think that roundabouts, I'd like to see the state say that they ran simulations of these, and if not, they should. It's so important because you have 50% less accidents and in a roundabout as you do in a traffic signaled intersection, especially on a highway. You can have people running the light. They'll be stressed out. They're trying to beat the light. It's human nature. Or they just ignore the light. People can fly through at high speeds, and there could be serious accidents. There are.
Mike, do you mind moving on to your second point? We only have a certain amount of time for public input.
Yes, so that's fine. I'm sorry about going on.
No, thanks.
I just hadn't seen any mention of roundabout, so I would support that one. The other one is once this interchange is done, whatever alternative is chosen, it's going to drop the traffic a good deal, probably by more than half on Main Avenue. And that's a state route 719. It's 2.2 miles long. It runs from Grist Mill, the motor vehicle, all the way down to New Canaan Avenue. That's one of the most dangerous roads in Southwest Connecticut, according to the SORPA study 10 years ago. And that stretch of road is 4 lanes, narrow lanes, and with all of the weaves and conflicts of 4-lane road with multiple driveways incurs, which is why it's one of the most dangerous roads in Connecticut. High accident rate, high injury rate. So I would recommend that the state include Route 719 in this plan and do a road diet and turn it into a 3-lane solution with a shared turn lane, which the lower ADT counts would justify, and it would function well. And then we would have bike lanes on both sides of the road. That would solve a lot of problems. It would actually be a connection for the Norwalk River Valley Trail, which it's been tricky to try to figure out how to get it from the new area by Merit 7, and it would have to cross Route 7, et cetera. So it could come down on bike lanes and get around back down to Broad Street. So, and also feed all those businesses and residences. So I would like the state to include the road diet for Route 719 in this, and I would ask the Bike Walk Commission and with all the good work that you guys are doing to support that solution for Main Avenue, which is a state road and goes right through this intersection that we're discussing today on your agenda, the Route 715. So that's all I have to say. Thank you for everything you guys do. I know how hard you work. As a former founding member of the Bike Walk Task Force, I appreciate everything you guys do and understand the dedication that you guys have. So thank you.
And thank you, Mike. Thanks for being well-researched and well-spoken. We appreciate your input.
Yeah. Thank you, Mike. Good to hear from you.
Thanks.
Any other public input from members of the public? If so, put your hand up. I will comment briefly. Mike's point about roundabouts. I grew up in right next to Carmel, Indiana, which is kind of the epicenter of roundabouts in the United States, and I can attest they've done well there. They've not only has the public really embraced them there in Carmel, but also they've done a lot to lower their crash rates in Carmel. So with the absence of more public input, we will move on to the next agenda item, which is the update on the 715 project from our team at Condoct. So I will turn it over. I believe, Ken, are you leading this or who's leading it?
Yeah, I'll lead it in the narrative,
John.
Ken.
Great.
But Ken, you can share your screen and we can kind of get going.
Okay.
Yeah, while you're doing that, just as backdrop, Tanner, and just for the commission, one of the reasons we're here and we asked to come before you guys is Tanner was good enough to join one of our Q&A sessions back in, I think it was early December, maybe November 30th. Had some good insights, and it struck us that it's been a while since we've come before the commission. We actually came before the commission before it was formally a commission. Nancy was certainly part of that. And we know that, Nancy has left the chair, and we figured there's a lot of new faces. So we thought it was a good time, as we start to, come to the conclusion of the environmental documentation, to kind of give you an update and just talk through. And if you have any questions, certainly, reach out. We can take those, and I'll give some contacts at the end where we can you can always submit questions or concerns or issues. Do I have you can go to the next slide, Ken. Do I have access? Do I have the cursor now, or
I think I saw your, oh,
efforting to, thought there was a way to share my control. Maybe you have to request. Continue talking, John, and then
Okay,
I'll go while you're.
yeah, we'll kick off. Tonight we're going to talk a little bit about anticipated schedule, where we started, bicycle and pedestrian focus. And I want to keep in mind as we go through this, we're still in the environmental documentation side. So we have come up with some ideas as part of the EA as we starting to kind of flesh out, what could happen along Main Avenue and Glover. So we're going to share some of those. We're going to tag team this. I'll do a lot of the presentation, and then I will turn it over to Ken to kind of talk about the bicycle and pedestrian focus, which I think is appropriate for this commission. I'll give a few next steps, and we'll have open discussion. So I thought right now we could just kind of go around so who's who on the call. I'll start off. My name is John Eberly. I'm with Stantec Consulting. We are the consultant managing the project for the State Department of Transportation. Andy?
Yeah, hi, everybody. Yep, Andy Fessenmeyer. I'm the project manager from the DOT on the project. I've been on it for quite a while, as John has as well. So it's good to be back with you guys. Thank you.
Yolanda?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Yolanda Antoniak, and I'm with Department of Transportation, working with Andy. I'm one of the project engineers on the project. Krishalin?
Hello, good evening. My name is Christine Macrohan. I'm the project engineer of this project together with Yolanda. I recently joined this project last month, so I'm pretty new, but I'm familiar with this area. I live around, not exactly Norwalk, but close.
Ken.
And I'm Ken Livingston with FHI Studio. We are supporting Stantec for community engagement and also for this bicycle and pedestrian focus.
And Chris.
Yep.
Good evening. I'm Chris Mojica. I'm a transportation engineer with Stantec and working with John on the environmental documentation for this project, leading the traffic effort.
All right. So I think we've got everyone there, right? Is there someone I missed? Probably not. Okay. Yeah.
can I ask quick, Chris, have you joined our meetings before? I think I recognize your name.
Yes, a couple months ago I joined, but that was more as a parent to Tracy.
That's
so,
right.
I worked with Colin as part of some of the safety issues by Tracy Elementary, Tracy Magnet.
Excellent. Well, it's great to have you back. Thanks for joining.
Great to be here again. Thanks.
So I'll just, Ken, have you figured out if I
No.
can get, no? Okay, then we're gonna do is follow me slowly. I'll go as slow as I can when I want to show some movements, but let's start out with the anticipated schedule. As Andy kind of alluded to, we've been at this for 5 years now. So we've been doing a lot of work in those 5 years, data collection, analysis, lots of alternatives development. I think we started with 35 alternatives on this project. And right now we're in the environmental documentation phase. We're actually coming to a conclusion with that. And we've just submitted actually the EA internally to FHWA to take a look. Next steps, as far as that's concerned, we anticipate that we'll have a PAC meeting in spring of this year, a couple of months. And that's to give the PAC kind of a sneak peek at what the EA is going to say. We will have a public hearing, likely in the summer, where everyone will be invited to comment on the publishing of the EA. Once we do that and we get through the approvals, what we're looking to do is hit design fairly hard here. Preliminary design, final design, and permitting will kind of be in 2022, 2023. Eventually, we're anticipating that construction will likely start in 2025. And take these with a grain of salt. I mean, they could always shift depending on trying to get approvals at the federal level. So, but it's something that we're trying to stick with. Slide.
John, do you mind defining PAC?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Project Advisory Committee. Actually, Nancy Rosette is on that committee, as is Mike Yosek, I believe. So,
And Jim Carter, who's on the call.
Jim Carter, Charles Taney.
Great.
So just kind of going back, what is the project purpose? Where did this come from? And what you're seeing on your screen is the formal statement of the project purpose, which is purpose of the Route 715 Norwalk project is to complete and improve connections, safety, and traffic flow between Route 7, Route 15, and Main Avenue in Norwalk. Slide. When you boil down the project to its absolute core, it's this slide in a sense, at least the big overview. Right now, what you see in green there are the existing connections between Merritt Parkway and Route 7. What you see in red are the connections that are not there. So if you're on Route 7 going northbound or southbound, you cannot make the connection going to Merritt Parkway northbound unless you use side roads, Grist Mill, Route 123. And the same for Merritt Parkway southbound. If you're trying to get to Route 7, you have to get off of Main Avenue and go up or down to Grist Mill or New Canaan, because you cannot make that connection. So that's really at the base what we're trying to accomplish here. And there's going to be a lot of things that kind of roll from that. So slide. One of the things that, and folks on the pack have certainly seen this before, but this is a heat map that we put together for Merritt Parkway crashes. Just to kind of, do we have a problem in this area? Well, if you look at the purple are the two interchanges that we're dealing with. And there we have somewhere to 422 crashes. If you look along the entire parkway, there's not another interchange that has more than like 220. So that's an alarm screaming. So we thought that would be useful to you. Slide. So the project need, I gave you the project purpose. The project need really boils down to these three items. Number one, roadway system linkages, complete all connections. So I just went through that. Safety, so improve safety for Route 715 traffic and connections to Main Avenue. Clearly, the last slide shows there's some safety issues. But the third one that is actually in the need, because we wanted to highlight it, is mobility. And it's provide local road network improvements to Main Avenue, Glover Avenue, and Creeping Hemlock Drive. And that's really, I think, what this commission probably has the greatest purview on or desire to see. So, but those are the three legs of the project needs. So slide. So what we want to do is I want to just kind of walk you through real quickly. I'm sure everyone is familiar with the interchange, but this is the existing condition. It is also the no build alternative. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute, but we have to address the no build along with build alternatives for this project. So this is the existing condition. And just to orientate yourself, Route 7, north and south right there. Merritt Parkway goes across the screen, left to right. To the right is Main Avenue, north and south, and the train station, if you can identify that, that's a train station, and that's Glover Avenue right through those are the new apartment buildings. So that kind of gives you an overview of the existing condition. And again, this is the actual no build alternative that we have to assess as a benchmark. Go ahead, Ken. As it appears on my screen, slowly but surely.
Alternative 21D.
Yeah, it was like a ghost. So we are now looking at two alternatives beyond, and I should say two build alternatives. Alternative 21D, which is in front of you now, and I think the next slide will be a bit more interesting. But this essentially makes the connections, and what you immediately take out of this is it's very busy. There's a lot of roadways, a lot of ramps. But the connections are actually made through freeway ramps, typical interchange ramps. Ken, I'm going to take Merritt Parkway southbound to Route 7 southbound, just as an example. This is one of the missing connections. So, coming down, we're going to exit at the new interchange. Yep, right there. We would be on a typical ramp, a highway ramp going over Route 7, over a bridge, and coming down. We would pass under Merritt Parkway, and then we would make the connection to Route 7 southbound. And that's just an example. And if you go to the website that we're going to give you, there's a lot more information on this. But the key takeaway from this alternative is the connections are made with free flow ramps. And that's the important thing to recognize. Go to the next slide.
I think we had a misconnection, but.
Okay. Oh, that's fine. All right.
Yeah.
I saw something else, so that's fine.
Yeah.
Alternate 26. This one is, so this is the second alternative that we're looking at. As you can see, it's a lot more compact in design. And this makes the connections through traffic signals on Route 7. So one north and one south. And just as an example on how these connections are going to work, we'll do the exact same movement. Merritt Parkway southbound, we want to get to Route 7. We would get off this ramp, this roadway. We would hit a traffic signal. At this point, we can either go right to the north on Route 7 or left and go southbound toward Norwalk. So that essentially, so the connections here are through traffic signals, and that's the main difference between the two. And there's a lot of impacts and assessments that we've been doing that we'll be reporting out. But that essentially are the two alternatives. One thing I want to note here, the Main Avenue area, which is where this commission really likely has interest, it is exactly the same whether it's alternate 26 or alternate 21D. There are some minor changes in ramps and things like that. But the core, values that we're going to be talking about, bike ped improvements would be the same regardless of the alternative. So one way or the other, that would be in there. Next slide. So just kind of summing up the alternative analysis, and this is, through the federal NEPA process, SEPA including evaluation of two alternatives, 21D and 26. And as I indicated, the no action or the no build alternative has to be assessed as part of the benchmark so that we understand what the impacts are on the build alternative. So next slide. So I'll turn it over to Ken and then I'll come back, and this probably you'll have more interest in this, I think, than anything I've said, but Ken, why don't you take it from here and then I'll come back in.
Okay. So where have we been? As John mentioned, we've been at this project for a number of years. We have had meetings previously with the NRVT board with Charlie Taney and Jim Carter. I believe we've had 2 meetings with them. We've also met with earlier versions of your board. I believe twice we met with them under Nancy's direction a number of years ago. And once again, with pre-COVID, we did a walking tour of the Main Avenue, Glover Avenue area. Nancy's in the picture there along with Jim. We walked the route up Glover Avenue, down Main Avenue, and explored around Main Avenue just to get everyone on the same page of on the ground, what conditions look like. We've been out there multiple times as a study team, but we thought as a larger group, we spent a nice fall afternoon walking the area. And as John mentioned, Nancy Rosette and Charlie Taney, Jim Carter are on our project advisory committee of the PAC. They've attended almost all the meetings and been some of our most well-attended and vigilant folks throughout the last 4 years of committee meetings. So, and over that time, we've had 8 meetings already, and looking forward to having our 9th, as John discussed a moment ago. So what John did mention and we talked about is, and this is important to understand whether we're talking alternative 21D or we talk 26, both locations have the same impacts on Main Avenue. And as discussed from Mike earlier, and as you know, there are some significant sort of constraints, issues, and most importantly, opportunities along Main Avenue right now to enhance bicycle and pedestrian amenities and the overall feel and safety of bicycling along Main Avenue, connecting Glover Avenue up to the train station. And along this area, whether you're looking at existing infrastructure that could be improved, sidewalks maintained, but the roadway itself, even as for those people that have traveled underneath the Main Avenue bridge on a bike or walking, it's a tight, narrow, and not the safest area. So, we look at this as, while we're improving the connections from a vehicle perspective, there's some strong opportunities to improve it from a bicycle and pedestrian perspective, and also for transit users that may be walking or accessing transit stops along this Main Avenue, Glover Avenue corridor. And so what are those potential for improvements? And as we said, during the environmental assessment process, we're basically saying, there's a wide range of improvements. Both alternatives are going to be able to have alternatives, and those from a bicycle perspective, we can consider bicycle lanes, bicycle signals, and overall signage. From a pedestrian perspective, there's improvements to sidewalks, whether it's replacement, widening, buffers from the roadway, whether it's a vegetative buffer or some other type of physical buffer we can work through. Signal improvements, both to ped actuations and for bus stops, better amenities for the bus stops along this corridor. So where we are considering a wide range of alternatives. As John mentioned, as we head into preliminary design, that's where we're going to be putting really in detail some of these bicycle amenities. That said, through this process, as we considered how we were looking at the alternatives to say both are similar, and on a general level, what impacts may be, we did do some preliminary, I guess you could say, conceptual designing of what a roadway could look like. And here was one thing, looking at Main Avenue, this would be one potential concept, would be the sidewalk, as we said, a sidewalk on both sides, buffered area, vegetative buffer, bicycle lane, bicycle buffer, and traffic lanes. And at various points, we'll deal with how many traffic lanes and how they need to be. But our assessment at the concept level is this type of design treatment can work in the area, and especially as we talk next, which is Main Avenue going underneath the Merritt Parkway. There's still potential to provide buffers from the bridge area, sidewalk area, further buffer area, bike lanes, bike buffer areas, and travel lanes. So we are looking, as we said, even on a concept level, making sure what we're considering for both alternatives would provide significant upgrades to bicycle and pedestrian amenities along Main Avenue. Overall, you can see and this is just at a very schematic sort of conceptual level, many of these green areas and green lines, and I'll zoom in the next one, are looking at amenities throughout Main Avenue here, between sidewalks, bike lanes, markings, bike ramps, and we've even looked at what can fit from a right-of-way perspective, making sure that any impacts or any design we have will fit with an existing right-of-way, which is important to understand during this initial environmental assessment process. And as we're looking to make sure those connections will then tie into the improvements that the state is doing as it relates to the train station improvements, Merritt 7 station. Zooming in a bit more, you can see we've looked at even some bike ramps, potentially to getting on sidewalks, as you may go through intersections and press signals if you would like to get off your bike and walk across the intersection. Plus we have spacing for bike lanes, bike boxes we're putting in other locations. There's some shallows as you get up to an intersection, and then shoulders and widening as we go this way. This is Creeping Hemlock here, Glover Avenue, and Main Avenue. Merritt Parkway would be here. And then continuing looking south here, as we said, these were the cross sections I had shown just a moment ago on the Main Avenue, the bridge over or underneath Merritt Parkway. And that at a location like this, where you may be the travel lanes and the movement. So along this way, these are conceptual designs, as we said, so back in 2018, we were already looking at these from a concept perspective as we decided to look at alternatives and how alternatives could work as this process of the environmental assessment. So all of these would now be then, based on the chosen alternative, further refined, developed, and incorporated into the preliminary design portion or phase of the project.
Yeah, and I'll take it from here, Ken. And just it should be obvious to folks, but we're not sticking all of that, all those facilities in the existing bridge. That existing bridge is slated to be replaced, and that's going through the the federal look, the 4F properties and whatnot. But so that will be a replaced bridge, and that gives us a wider area to be able to put in a lot of these facilities. So. So next steps, you can go to the next slide, just to kind of wrap up real quickly. So as I indicated, the EA is under review now. Ideally, we publish the EA for public comment in the coming months, so everyone will have access to that. we will receive comments from the PAC. And then we'll have that formal public hearing I talked about, ideally in the summer, where again, we'll gather comments, review public comments as it says there.
Do you mind defining the acronyms again, just because we've got a lot of people with varying levels of experience?
Yeah, I'm sorry, the EA is the environmental assessment. The PAC we talked about. The EIE I'm trying to think of what environmental
Impact evaluation.
Yeah,
That's the state
that's
level.
more the state level.
Okay.
They're the same document in a sense, but one you have to go through the SEPA process versus the NEPA process. NEPA is for the feds, so it's a joint document. The PAC, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Go to the next slide, and this really just wraps it up. So again, anyone on this call, any of the members of the public, the commission, if you have any questions, any issues, you can certainly reach out to Andy, who introduced himself, Fessenmeyer. I would also suggest that folks go to the 715 Norwalk site shown here. There is an awful lot of information up there. There's models, there's past minutes of meetings, just a lot of stuff that over 5 years we've collected. So go up there, take a look, and if anyone has anyone looks at that information and has any questions, definitely feel free to reach out. And this likely will not be the last time that will be for this commission. Once we get into design, we'll probably be looking for feedback as well as we go forward. So that's essentially where we stand today, and we're looking forward to the next couple of months and moving on.
Well, thank you, John. I want to give a chance in case commissioners have questions to ask a couple of them. We are over time, so we don't have a ton of time to do that. But just to make sure we're all on the same page, it sounds like when it comes to feedback, I imagine especially granular feedback, that's something that you'll be looking for more in a later meeting and not today. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, we'll take any feedback you have, but we're not designing today. So It's not something like we need, and it will not make its way into the EA. The EA, the environmental assessment, will not go into that granular detail. So it is something that we'll be addressing with you folks and looking for input as we go down the design road here.
Gotcha. Okay. Because I'm sure that we've got a lot of motivated, passionate people here that will likely have a lot of feedback, both high level and granular. But I want to make sure that we don't get caught in the weeds today, because I don't think that's the time for it. So with that said, any questions from commissioners? Go ahead, Judd.
Have you looked at an off-road alternative, say along the power lines that run from Grist Mill down to Broad? I know there would be water crossings and things like that. So it would be a bike path versus bike lanes along Route 7. Has the state considered that at all?
Yeah, I will address that, Andy, first. If you're talking about the bike trail, I mean, the NRVT currently has a plan to come down the power lines with their trail. What we've been working with the NRVT is how do we try to make connections between the Main Avenue area and the others area. And we've done a lot of work with them, a lot of coordination, and we'll continue to work with them. But keep in mind, though, the bike lanes are not on Route 7. That's important to know, that we're talking about Main Avenue only. But the NRVT already has plans to come down the power with or the power lines with the trail, and that's actually in some form of planning and design as we speak.
Okay.
I know that, John, I know that's the case up north of Grist Mill. Is that also the case south of Grist Mill?
What's that? Yeah, there's an overall plan, and again, a lot of design work is happening north of Grist Mill. The design work has not begun on anything south. It's more in coordination phase.
Yeah,
talking with the state on right of way and things like that. So right now, and maybe I should be clear, actual design and construction is more likely right now north of Grist Mill, but there are plans and planning going on for that bike trail south of Grist Mill.
And Jim Card is here too, which
okay, hey,
not part of our project team, but
yeah.
you may want to.
I am here, and I've been sitting on my hands as much as I can. So I do want to follow up on that. I mean, the NRV certainly supports the Glover and Main Avenue corridor as, if you will, the NRVT business route, if you will. But we also need to protect the the main routing of the NRVT, which is over under the power lines and would more likely need to utilize the Super 7 rebuild as a part of it getting under the Merritt Parkway. So we have had several meetings with the project group about how we can make that happen. That still requires a lot of work. And most importantly, I think the commitment from the state on this project and the city in supporting that to make sure that this doesn't become an orphan as we get rolled over on the bigger and grander project.
Thanks, Jim.
But you know, I'll save all that for futures, which are coming shortly in terms of the granular comments and follow up.
So on a high level, though, I think that the salient question here for John or for the whole conduct team is the project team committed to preserving the power line corridor? And then specifically, I think that the sticking point is getting over or under the Merritt for that power line corridor. So are you committed to including that in the final design?
Yeah, well, we have to get into design to understand what the parameters are. But I will say this, and as Jim knows, we've met with Jim and Charlie, and I think we've prepared an idea that could make a connection under the parkway. And I think that whether that's adding culverts, whether it's putting space under the Route 7 bridge to try to make those connections, that definitely can be forefront in what we're doing. And I think we still have additional coordination to do with Jim and his group.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay, thanks. Other questions or topics from commissioners?
I got one.
Go ahead, Colin. Yeah.
I was just curious. I noticed your crash stats were from 2014 to 2018. I was curious if you had data previous and more up-to-date data and what that was indicating in terms of whether crashes were increasing in frequency or decreasing more currently.
Yeah. Chris, you wanna take that?
Yeah, so originally we started doing crash histories, looking at 2014 to 2017. Recently, maybe a couple years ago, we went and we did that to a 5-year window. We would definitely be looking at another sort of update or refresh. I think we're still trying to handle the whole COVID period right now in terms of what the representative years are and things like that. So I think the key here is when we're submitting this draft EAEIE, it is a draft environmental document. It's not final. So there will be time, and as comments come in, we'll be able to take a look at that, and likely we will be looking to see what has transpired since the pandemic has begun, and if some of those regional and the local trends have been following up, and that would be part of the documentation.
Thanks, Chris, and thanks, Colin, for the question. Any other topics or comments from commissioners? Great. I want to throw one more in there, and then I think we have to move along. But John or anybody else, can you address either of Mike's comments from the public input section, either about roundabouts or about a road diet on Main Ave?
Maybe I would just jump in quick there. I was
Go
just going to actually offer that to Mike. Good to see you again, Mike. I think the best thing is we've looked at roundabouts, and we've also love to talk to you about plans for Main Avenue and what is in the works right now. But I think it'd be best if you could reach out to me, by email or whatever. I could set up a meeting with our whole project team. There's a lot to talk about there, and we'd love to do that. And anybody else who's interested, setting up a meeting. But maybe Mike, if you don't mind reaching out to me, and we can get that arranged and get into that.
Thank you. Can you all hear me? Yeah.
Yep.
So thanks. And I understand a road diet would not be addressing underneath the bridges, where obviously you need capacity and stacking, but it would be in the further reaches of that Route 719, which nobody refers to it as that, but it's a state road, which is the 2-mile length. I just think that's a great solution, and I'll reach out. Thank you.
Yep, great.
I accidentally muted myself. Mike, I'd be very interested to participate in that as well. If you want to CC me, I'd love to join.
Sure.
Thanks. Cool. Well, let's move on. Really appreciate everybody from Condot and from Stantec and FHI for joining and for taking us through that. Look forward to having you back, especially when the design phase is a little closer and we can give some more granular feedback, especially on the pedestrian facilities and the bike facilities.
Great. Thanks.
Tanner, would
Thanks
you
for having
like
us.
me to, Tanner, would you like me to send you a PDF of our presentation for your notes or minutes?
That would be
or-
excellent. Yeah,
Okay.
if that's an option.
Yep.
Yeah.
I can do that afterwards.
Thanks.
All right. Good night, all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night. Thanks a lot.
All right, our numbers are thin now. We're at like 60%. So the next thing we have on the agenda is our standing update from Greg from TMP. Greg, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Tanner. So obviously tonight, I'm looking at the agenda, we're talking a lot about bike racks. Just so everybody knows, you know, recently, obviously, we've kind of been buying a lot of bike racks, you know, kind of ad hoc lately, you know, which kind of cause some delays, you know, in buying racks 1, 2 at a time. So the city recently, working with the purchasing department, we're kind of putting together an RFP in order to have one specific vendor supply the city with bike racks whenever we purchase a new bike rack, or at least a set of bike racks, so that we don't have to consistently go through the purchasing process of going out, getting 3 different quotes and, you know, obviously having to take the lowest bid that comes in. So which could cause some issues as far as consistency, especially if we use a different vendor each and every time. So we're right now in the process of putting that RFP together, so that we can see what vendor comes back and gives us the best price. And, you know, this will kind of assist us in developing a more consistent look for bike racks, especially around the city, without having to purchase those one-off bike racks that don't kind of fit the look of the other bike racks. Because obviously, you know, we've ordered a lot of products from Dero, but we've also ordered some products from some different vendors, which have a different look to it. So we want to try to be consistently as possible with that. So right now, the city is kind of working on putting that RFP and getting it out so that we can order bike racks at much more ease than in the past. Especially since we're, you know, obviously the projects we discussed, we're putting a lot of emphasis on bike infrastructure and bike facilities around the city. And I think we want to up our game as well in providing better infrastructure for bike parking as well, and not just the standard, you know, 5-loop bike rack in location. So we're trying to up our game a little bit in the bike parking if we're going to put a heavy investment into the bike facilities on street. So we want to put that into the bike parking as well. So we want to kind of, you know, get that started and really emphasize that on top of it. So looking at Tanner, you want to bring up that first example?
Yeah,
The one
first
that's on
though,
the
Colin
agenda?
had his hand up.
I'm
Colin,
sorry, I
do
didn't
you
see
want
that.
to ask a quick question? And I'll bring that up.
Yeah, I was just, I like that you're competitively bidding. I was just curious, seeing as that most of these racks that we're discussing are basically tube steel of some sort that's shaped and welded in a upside down U to brackets. There's a lot of fabricators and miscellaneous metals people here in New York. Is there any chance that the city would develop a schematic and bid it out competitively to local businesses so that you could really order ad hoc from a variety of local vendors and potentially get it powder coated here? I know there's some appeal to ordering from, you know, national companies, but, you know, encouraging local businesses to provide things would be nice. I know that I just read a profile on one of the Norwalk Facebook groups about a woman that started a laser cut sign company that's working locally and doing things very similar to what you're showing in between there. And you could even combine local businesses to provide the finished product, which, you know, I feel like that's something advantageous for the city because you're supporting local businesses and you're making things here in city. So there's a lot to yell about there from a perspective.
Yep. I mean, we're just trying to expedite the process, especially for bike racks. So, I mean, it is going to be put out to bid. So there is going to be, interest, outside of just, the usual few vendors that we use. So we'll see who comes forward, but that is a, interesting point to make. I'm just not sure that this is coming from the purchasing department. They recommended it and they said, put the RFP together, and this will make the process much easier because we want to get bike racks and we want to get them made. And, just that whole process going through the purchasing is kind of held up a lot of things. So we're just trying to expedite it. So, but it is a good discussion point, and I will bring it up with the TMP team and see, get their input as well about that.
Yeah, I'm sure I could talk to Judd because I think he's got some metalwork contacts as well, but I could probably send you a couple ones just to look at
Right.
and discuss, but not preferential to any of them, just some that I know are local.
Right. No, I understand what you're saying. I think, especially just looking through like Dero, I think trying to, they're able to do a lot, especially the unique bike racks as well. And that's something obviously we've talked about in the past that, like the shark bike rack that we want to implement, and, not just only the hoop style racks, but, something, some unique ones around that fit the theme, like the shark bike rack. So,
yeah, and I think I for one definitely recognize the difference between purchasing something that's unique and custom and something that's utilitarian, because if we have a city standard, I think that's more what I'm getting at. Trying to be able to get that locally, I think would be an interesting thing. So that's it.
I'll bring it up and get some input and see, as we're putting the RFP together and see, how it comes together.
Can I just double check and make sure I understand, Colin, what you're describing? It seems like you're saying that as an alternative to purchasing like an off-the-shelf rack that's been designed by somebody like Dero, that instead somebody within TMP would put together probably a simple design, but an in-house design that would then go to a fabricator instead of to an actual like bike company. Is that right?
Yeah, more or less. So like what I'm seeing on screen there is, I mean, you may say that that's off the shelf, but it's really not entirely, because they may have a stock of these things pre-bent and welded that are awaiting powder coating, but that sign is totally custom for Norwalk if that was to be something that Dero was doing. They're going to have a template charge for that, and they'll keep it on hand, but it's a custom piece that's going to be made to order and then welded onto their pre-bent rack. So in that sense, it's no different than getting that made up locally and getting a welding shop or a fabricator to install it correctly. So there's a specification that the city TMP can come up with, and there's an opportunity to engage local businesses in the process and keep people working. So it's not difficult work to bend a pipe or to miter it and re-weld it, grind it, and then send it to a powder coater.
So you're suggesting that a big advantage would be that we could employ local people, that the money would stay in the local economy. Are you also suggesting that it might be more cost effective to do that than to send it to Dero?
Maybe it also might just be more available. It's like, I mean, as things stretch out, and supply chains, it's like raw materials may be available locally. And I mean, it's hard to say. I can't predict the future, but, I know that you can order stuff that's made out of metal locally and people can deliver it, and it might not take months.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's a great observation. And Greg, it sounds like you've got that noted down. You're going to talk to TMP about it.
Yeah. So I'll talk with the TMP staff and see how we want to go about it. Because if there is obviously one vendor, to do the rack, and then another one to do the outside coloring, the powder coating, and then send it back again to another party. So I'll discuss with the TMP team and see how we want to go about it.
Certainly. I will say though that I think that this step about submitting a single RFP so that we can buy over and over again from the same vendor, that is a marked improvement over what we're currently doing, where we have to wait every single time for an RFP. So good work there.
Right.
Yeah, I like to look at this.
Yeah, so the top one you're looking at, the attachment one, the bike Norwalk. So you guys obviously you picked the style hoop bike rack that you recommended to us. And then you kicked around a few ideas about the logo and whatnot. So what we did was we took the Visit Norwalk logo, which is kind of Norwalk's tourist logo. to visit Norwalk. And so we sent, kind of sent that and said, instead of visit Norwalk, we say bike Norwalk instead. Obviously not as colorful. We would just, do it in one solid color throughout. And some of the quotes that we had gotten back, this option was from Dero. They actually, the price actually got cheaper the more hoops we ordered. So we would keep all of the bike Norwalk, if we did go with Dero. Obviously we're still going to do the RFP and do that process. So we just wanted to get some pricing from a few different vendors, and they all kind of put out that the price would get cheaper for each hoop, the more that we ordered. So we would probably do all of them the same. And it was also their recommendation, do them all the same rather than just the outside perimeter ones, because the cost would be pretty much the same. So this is one of the options that we would look for at the Norwalk Police Department and the Main Street lot, where the concrete pads have been poured and installed. So we're just kind of right now putting the RFP together and just kind of going to determine which vendor to go with, and then we can get these ordered and get them installed sooner rather than later. So the color wise, I know you guys had mentioned the same as the Shark bike rack. So I think we'll probably go with that one for this style. So the black is just kind of a overall concept that Dero had sent to us, and a couple of other vendors had kind of sent to us. So we're just kind of, looking at this, and, we do like the way it came out with, especially they were able to implement the same font as the Visit Norwalk logo. So once the RFP goes through and we kind of determine what direction we want to go in, then we'll be able to get these ordered and get them installed.
Question on this,
Yes.
Greg.
Yep.
I love the idea of taking the Norwalk part of the Visit Norwalk logo. The bike part there, is that the finalized design, or is that just a concept?
It's just a concept. It's not
Okay.
It's not a final render. We sent them the Visit Norwalk logo, and we just said, is this font doable? Do we have to change the logo? Because they said the cursive writing could be a little difficult sometimes to get it. So they had just sent the concept back, and they just kind of a rendering saying this is how it could look. We can tweak it a little bit. So
good. Okay, yeah. As long as it's not the final design, I think I'm good there. Any questions
it's not
about
the final design.
This first attachment?
Yeah. So you don't like the bike part?
It just looks like it hasn't been finalized.
Yeah, no,
looks
it's
like a
not
sketch.
yet. Yeah,
Okay.
no, it's not. So that's where we're at with that style bike rack. And then Tanner, if you want to go to the second attachment. So we've been looking around, obviously Washington Street, obviously very heavily traveled, a lot of businesses, walking businesses in the area. So
Tanner, can you close the first one? I don't think we can see the second one.
No, it's up, Judd.
I don't see it. I just see
You don't see it?
nope. The first. Oh, okay. All right. I had to close it. Never mind.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So yeah, so we're looking obviously at, increasing, accessibility to Washington Street, and obviously, providing more bike parking, along the corridor as well. So what we're looking at is purchasing and installing a Sono style bike rack. Obviously how it's put there, still another concept design where it reads Sono, and that would obviously match the Sono theme, along the rail bridge, under Washington Street, and it will kind of match the Sono brand theme signs that are displayed around the Sono area. Obviously it's not the hoop style bike rack, so it may not be the most functional, but it's still a bike rack, and you still can put bikes on. And at the same time, it is still kind of the brand Sono along Washington Street, which, might be good for the theme of the area. So that location, we're looking at a couple locations, but we think that this location probably would be one of the better options for us, only because of the curb extension, and it would at least lessen the clutter along the sidewalk, so that isn't a lot of bikes within the sidewalk. Because yes, it's wide there, but we don't want to over clutter the sidewalk, especially, we just pulled out the parking meters, and we don't want to, add too many things in there. But we do, obviously, we see that there is a need for more bike parking along Washington Street, and we definitely want to implement that. Another thing that we want to do as well along Washington Street is we want to look to install just black single hoop style bike racks as well, that run parallel to the curb. at least that we can, so they're not stacked on top of each other, so we can spread them out throughout the entire corridor. And this way, we can have bikes that are still parked on the sidewalk as well, without over cluttering the sidewalk on Washington Street. So, because we are looking to update the aesthetics along Washington Street, the light poles, we're going to refurbish those and plan to paint them black to match the theme, and then also new dark sky lighting as well on the light poles. So it all ties together what we're trying to do along the theme of Washington Street and kind of fit that overall brand and look along Sono. Yeah, so something to that avail. Yep.
Cool.
Yep, and they would be black, just like the poles that will be refurbished, and then, the Sono rack style sign that you see right there along the curb extension there. So something that will not only, that look will, all those style hoops and the Sono rack will be functional, and it will also aesthetically look good along the corridor and not look so cluttered on the sidewalk. Any
Great, thanks, Greg.
questions? Yeah.
Really appreciate that you, NTMP, are considering the high demand for bike parking there on Washington Street. I think this will be perhaps the most well-used bike parking in the city once it goes in.
Yes. Yep. And
Can I-
then,
Christine, go ahead.
yeah, go
Oh,
ahead.
no, I like that spot right there. Like, that's exactly where I was trying to park my bike in the summer. Like, there was no place to put my bike going to a restaurant with friends. It's like right there. So that's
Right.
great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
perfect.
Good, I'm
And actually,
glad.
right there in the spot where it's showing now, there's currently a bench in that same spot, and I have locked my bike to that bench twice in the last 2 weeks.
So, yeah, we're excited to kind of get in there and get some racks ordered and kind of get that implemented and kind of, refurbish that Washington Street a little bit, especially with the traffic that it gets. So we're definitely excited for it.
I just have a
Um,
quick thing. I
yeah.
forgot, I wanted to say about e-bikes. I don't ride an e-bike. I know they're becoming more and more popular. The e-bikes have maybe we've talked about this, a charging station. Like, when you park your bike, can you charge your bike somewhere?
So I can comment on that because this came up at a statewide Bike Walk Connecticut meeting that I was at a week or two ago. It's typically all the e-bikes on the market are designed to be charged with a charger that you keep at home. And it's pretty heavy. It's like a bit bigger than a laptop charger. And like conceivably you could carry it around, but it just plugs into an outlet. There are just very recently, a city in the Netherlands just started to install public e-bike chargers, or maybe it was just like power outlets for people to charge at. So they do exist, but it's like it's the cutting edge right now, even in the Netherlands.
I'm sure they all have proprietary connections too, Tanner.
Yeah, that's the problem. It's like having a public laptop charger. Like there's 18 different laptop chargers on the market.
Yeah. I would just say, Greg, my comments on that rack are, I like the look of it. I think it's a missed opportunity to put it in, to install it in a bike corral. And there's, very little sidewalk space as there is in downtown Sono. And I think I like the idea about having the bikes parallel to the street in certain locations. I think that's going to help disperse it. But if it's a focal point, I'd kind of rather see you take a parking space and provide more parking in a bike corral than take up sidewalk space.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, Colin, and it's definitely a consideration. I just think the businesses may not be happy on Washington Street if we take a spot away. And especially if
You're not taking a spot away, Greg. You're providing more parking for more people to access those businesses.
Yeah, I would say the same thing.
I understand, but that's always brought up whenever we want to take a parking spot, but we will further discuss it, as we go forward,
But
and see if there is an opportunity.
Just
Go
make
ahead,
sure
Judd.
when you're explaining it to
Sorry.
them that they can get 12 customers, or they can get 4, because you can fit about 12 bikes in a parking space. So they can have 4 times the number of customers, or they can have a quarter.
I get it. No, and we're not saying no, we're just, saying this is what comes along, and Judd will probably speak to this. Whenever you take a parking space away, there's always going to be some resistance. So, We're always,
Judd,
we're always
you had
under
your hand up.
consideration for it.
Go ahead, Judd.
I had a question. There's a curb extension on the other side of the street too, right?
Right here.
Oh, I see. Okay. Not really.
Hmm.
Mailbox.
There's the bench I was talking about. That's where the
Right,
the rack is in the rendering.
okay. I was just,
Greg, on kind of on the topic that Colin brought up, is there any opportunity for us to help out with the like outreach to businesses in situations like this?
Potential. We haven't done any, we're still very early on in this process. And like I said, we haven't even picked the vendor yet. So it's not like we ordered it or anything. So we're still very early on in the process. And I know, economic development is also looking at parklets in this area as well. That's another, item that's always there. So we're still very early in the process. So, but as far as outreach, I mean, we certainly could you have the bike walk commission, kind of, use you, in the circumstance such as that, but we'll have to see where we're at as we move, further along in the process. This is just something that we're kind of conceptually putting together at this point.
Sure. And so if I can throw out just a concept there to try and tie together a few things that have been said, perhaps like we could, a concept like this might work where during the summer as a type of parklet, as a joint effort between TMP and Economic and Development and the Bike Walk Commission, we could take over a parking spot just for the summer as a temporary measure and get a rack that maybe isn't affixed to the asphalt, but is a little more temporary, and just have it there just for the summer so that we can demonstrate to local businesses and show them that it does actually fill up with parked bikes and that brings customers. That might be a much more convincing way to get our point across than just to say, well, it'll probably happen. We think it'll happen.
Again, it's another discussion point that we can certainly have. And, as we progress, we can definitely, bring that topic and I'm sure we'll have more discussions about it. So as we continue with it, we'll definitely keep you all in the loop and, obviously take recommendations and also use your help if we do go that route. So.
Awesome. Cool.
Definitely.
Any other points on that topic or, oh, you had one more topic about this train station, right?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead.
Yes. So one other concept that we're putting together right now is to modify an existing parking space at the Sono train station and turn it into an elevated bike shelter that will be covered. So the shelter is planned to be placed on the outbound side of the tracks in the parking lot. So going towards Bridgeport. And that's close to the boarding platform. So the platform will kind of contain a ramp from the parking lot that bicyclists can ramp up to, and then will be a covered bike shelter to leave your bikes in. So the shelter is about, the dimensions are, anywhere from 20 to 25 feet or so, and about 10, 12 feet wide. So we would basically transform a parking space, an elevated platform that's level to the walkway, and where we'll have covered bike parking there all day. So
is this about where you're talking about, Greg?
Yeah, within that area. Yeah, we're looking at a couple different spaces just to have for for best continued flow of vehicles and for bikes as well that we're so that we're in the safest spot. So we're just looking and see what needs to be removed if we have to move a curb or whatnot. So we're just looking into what the best locations are at this point. So we're still early in the design process, but we're in the process of putting that together right now.
Greg, you say elevated to the sidewalk level?
Yeah, to the sidewalk. Yep.
Okay.
So basically there would be a ramp. There would be a ramp that you would drive right up, park your bike, and it would be covered.
Right.
Because the shelter is already built. It's just a matter of just putting it into the sidewalk and just bolting it in. So we would just extend the sidewalk so we wouldn't take any room away from the walking to get onto the platform.
So this is a shelter that you would purchase pre-made.
Correct. Yes. Correct.
Go ahead, Christine.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Greg. So I was actually going to bring this up. we've talked before about recent changes being made to the parking garage, no? For the East Norwalk, I mean, for the South Norwalk train station? They're gonna be redoing that, correct, in some regard?
I'm not sure on that one. I'd have to check on that one.
I
I'm not
thought we
sure
were
what
talking-
specifically type of changes there are going to happen there, because there is bike racks in the garage that are covered already, on the other side of the tracks.
Okay, because I just saw something that, like a bike garage, like a small area, not that small, but an area like a garage for the bikes within the garage.
Christine, are you saying that you saw this in another city or you heard about it happening in Norwalk?
No, I've seen the photos of it and it looked like great, like, and they have double decker kind of bike garage within the garage. But I
In
can
another
send-
city?
But not in Norwalk.
No, sorry, not in North, no.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, sorry, not to be clear, but I may send that to you, Greg, some other designs too to be thinking about.
Okay.
Christine, I think also you're thinking of the redevelopment presentation we had. It was either our last meeting or the one before where they were talking about the potential
Yeah.
development around the train station. And there was some
Yes.
discussion about some reconstruction of parking spaces and
Yes,
new layouts.
yes.
Is that the kind of thing that you were,
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
I
so
mean, not
this
as,
is
not as
common in-
elaborate, not as elaborate as that, but something like that, yeah.
yeah, this is common in the Netherlands and it's like state of the art. But so I actually had a quick conversation with Jim about this the other day, about this covered bike parking for our train station here. And Jim was excited about it, not only because it provides more parking for cyclists, but also because it provides excellent visibility. Right, because it's covered, you can see it from far away, you know that it's there, and it's easier to remember that it's there. Also on the same topic, Judd mentioned, I think last month, because we had that presentation from the redevelopment agency about the train station. Judd, you mentioned that you were going to take the idea back to the parking authority about adding or moving the bike parking within the garage. Any updates there?
I got as far as going to the garage and taking photographs of the existing bike rack, which is at the far south end of the first floor. There's other, there's parking spots closer to the actual train station. So I'll be talking to James Emery about that at
Great.
parking. So but I do have the photographs. I haven't spoken to James yet.
Thanks for working on that.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop sharing. So at this point, Greg, do you have any other outstanding items?
No, that's all.
Great. At this point, we are a little bit behind schedule, and I put on the agenda that the desired adjournment is 7:15, and that's because I have to leave now. At this point, I think I'll leave it to a vote. If people want to continue the last two agenda items without me, you're welcome to. Judd, as the vice chair, I would volunteer to keep running the meeting.
Okay.
If you all want to do that, or we can table the meeting and pick it up and put these two agenda items on next month.
I'm happy to stay on.
Well, I just have a quick question, Tanner. When does the budget have to be decided by the
Well,
purchases?
the hard limit that we have is that we need to spend it all by the end of June. And because we cut it very, very close last year, we left it to the last minute. TMP's asked us to be a little, because they're the ones that handle actually spending our money, to be a little more proactive this year. It doesn't mean that we need to nail down everything today in early February, but I think that I would imagine that we would need to nail it down by next month.
Okay, thank you.
Does that sound reasonable to everybody?
Tanner, one more thing before you go. Were
Yeah.
you planning on attending this summit or not?
Um,
Like the virtual?
Yes, I would like, at the very least, I would like to attend parts of the virtual summit.
Okay, great. I'll keep it in mind when we talk about that.
Any strong opinions one way or the other about concluding now versus having Judd run the rest of the meeting?
Chris?
Oh, no, I'm on here. I'm in, whatever you decide. Whatever
Well,
you
hang out as
decide.
well.
I'll keep going.
Sam, you want to keep going here?
Yep, I can hang out.
Okay.
All right, well then I'm gonna, Delene, do we need to do any sort of official vote to hand over control of the meeting to Judd?
No, I think we're fine.
All right, cool. Well, I'm going to sign off. Thank you, everybody. I will
Have a
see
good
you next
night.
month.
Have a good night, Tanner.
Thanks.
All right, Chris.
Oh, okay, so it's a month, bike month in May. And, I think that it would be better if we just have a few things that we try to accomplish and try to get a little group of people or some volunteers to work on this, to prepare for the month of May. But some of the things I thought that might work for our city would be, I love this open street day, like really have like open up like they do for the Memorial Day parade, for a couple hours on a Sunday. There's Ride with the Mayors, and I think they would be fun to have him go on the NRVT trail. Part of it with Ride with the Mayor and with like some of the legislative folks, Bob Duff, people like that. Social media is a big part of this. And I was also thinking of kind of piggybacking with Tanner and Sam, the clinic that you guys do, and do some bike education. Like, so every weekend there's an event in the city, right? So if you're doing the clinics, if you can do it every weekend, and then I could have something like Bike Fit, how to wear your helmet. So these are just some ideas that we can do. And also, Greg was talking about the bike racks. Like, I was just thinking about this, have sort of a game. How many bike racks are in the city, and to have a day where you go and you find the bike racks, like with little riddles, with little hints, like something by the tracks, and to find something like that. So those are some ideas for the May of Bike Month, and also maybe being part of the Memorial Day Parade, having bikes in the Memorial Day Parade. So those are just some ideas I have, but I
Okay.
need some more other people to help out with this, so.
I think it's all great. It's, just a matter of organizing those things, especially, I think, what did you call it? Open street?
Yeah.
You
An
know,
open
that,
street event, yeah.
Mike Yosak, I think you're here, but you'd have to get a permit for that probably, and somebody would have to probably provide insurance. It has to get approved by the traffic authority and things like that. So I'm sure it could be done, but it's just time and effort. So.
Yeah, two more ideas would be an electric bike demo through the Smart Cycling Shop. They did something with, so Nancy's not here, she was on, but they did something with the bike shops, I think last year or 2 years ago. I don't know if Sam was involved with that. It was Barbara and Nancy. And I don't know. But I thought they could have like a tune-ups, come get your bike tuned up, or kids, and give things away at each of these events. So every weekend, something.
You're talking about at the repair stand at the beach, Chris?
No, I thought, no, there was something that Nancy and Barbara did with the bike shops, like
Yeah.
Smart Cycles, REI.
I think that's before my time.
Sound Cyclist, way back, we had a bike rodeo, or Sound Cyclist had a bike rodeo for kids at City Hall. And we helped give away helmets and did, minor bicycle tune-ups, pumped up tires and things like that.
Yeah, the Kiwanis does that, so they probably have their bike rodeo. So I want to stay away from bike rodeo because that's what they've been doing in the city.
Oh, okay. Yes, I think
Yeah.
not Sound Cyclist.
Yeah, but anyway, I think it might have been like a check-in at the bike shop for free. Go get your bike kind of looked over for free at each bike shop in the city. I think that's what Nancy and Barbara
Okay.
spearheaded, so.
Well,
Okay, we'll talk about this next time, I guess. too.
yeah, I think they're all great ideas. I don't think you could do all of them. I think maybe pick one or two and try and focus on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the scavenger hunt idea is really good. That's
Yeah, that's awesome.
I did just anecdotally, I did with my family, the State Deep runs a Sky's the Limit hiking challenge that we participated in this year, and they put out a list, and I think the new list is coming out in March, of 20 state parks or a given number of state parks, and they challenge you to go visit those parks and tag them on social media and geolocate photos at different locations throughout the parks, and then you have to submit a itinerary essentially at the end of by a certain date, showing your proof that you've been at those parks, and then you get a certificate. Mine just showed up 2 or 3 weeks ago with like a bandana and some badges and stuff like that. So if we had some water bottles or some swag, and we said, hey, there's 100 bike racks in Norwalk that are city owned, this is where they are, go take a photo at each one and send it to us, over the course of a week, see who gets it and if you're something. I think that would be fantastic.
Yeah, okay. Well, how many bike racks are there in the city? Or how
I
many
don't know.
were-
I just
No,
threw a
I'm
number out
asking
there.
Greg. Yeah, no, I
Okay.
was wondering that, yeah. If we know.
We have a list. I can't,
Okay.
I'm not going to pull it up right now, but it's pretty substantial. You'd be surprised.
So then it would be a good activity to do that. Okay,
I'll send you the link to the DEEP program so that you can look at
Okay.
it and see what they did.
okay, thanks, Colin.
And Chris, do you have anything on the League of American Bicyclists membership and summit?
So it's in March, and the good thing about this is it's virtual and it's in person. So I went last year, as you know, we shared the movies and some of the workshops. It's legislation. It's how to get legislation passed. That bill that we talked about, the infrastructure bill got passed. There's a lot of good things in there. So it's worthwhile, but I don't know. And I know it's in the budget, Mike. He puts it in the budget for us. I don't know how much is in there, Mike, for this year, but Tanner said he would like to go. I would probably like to go again.
So you don't know what the cost of that is?
I think it's like $50. There was an early bird special, early bird. I think we passed that though. I can tell you now.
Who's that?
I can tell you in a second, like how much it was, but I think it's maybe $50.
Okay.
You got 10 grand, so you got plenty to spend.
Okay.
Okay. But I don't know. I can send it to everybody again and see who wants to go and just let Tanner know, I guess.
Right. Well, I think we need to know what the costs are so we can vote to spend on that or not. But we
I
don't
think
have-
Mike already put it in the budget. Mike, are you there?
Yeah, I think it's just a line item for everything, right, Greg?
Yes, yeah, Mike, I think it's just lumped in from that 10 grand. We just took it from the commission's budget and just lumped it in.
Do either of you have, I mean, it's not a huge thing, it sounds like.
It's $70.
No, it's not. No, if you guys want to attend and, depending on how many attendees want to go, just tell us and we'll, appropriate the funds for you to go. It's from your budget, so.
Okay, so do I have a motion to approve the funds for that? Chris?
Yeah, so I make a motion to approve the funds for at least two of us. It's $70 each, virtual. It's for a league member, and we have a group league membership, so it's $70.
Okay.
So
Do
I
I
make a motion.
I'll second.
Yep,
all in
seconded.
favor?
Yep, aye.
Aye, okay.
And the dates are March 27th through the 30th. But I'll send everybody this, and you can look at the workshops and, do we need to say how many of us will be attending?
Yeah, just send us an email just saying that, whoever wants to attend, we need 2 attendees signed up for the summit for these days, and, anything else that's in the registration, and then we'll get everybody, you'll appropriate the funds and get you signed up.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
The next item on there is swag. And if I can, let's see here. Is that all? Is that showing up for everyone?
I can see it, Judd.
Yep.
Okay. So Carly and I worked on this together. Carly, you're here?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, and Carly did the bulk of the work on this. I had spoken to Tanner about a possible budget, and we agreed on $2,000. And as you can see here, what that would get us is a rough, 100 water bottles, 100 drawstring bags, and 61 helmets. And these are the helmets, water bottles, things like that. Carly, you might be able to speak a little more about this.
Yep, so the helmets are the certified helmets. I also sent you, Judd, I don't know if you got it a little while ago, some more details on that. I don't know if you have that email, if you want to pull it up with the specifics on it. The drawstrings are basic nylon drawstrings. We can choose the color of the bag and put our logo on them. And then there's 3 options for the water bottles. They would all fit in the standard bike cage. The one on the left is slightly taller, but they're all the same diameter. And then the one in the middle, I have to get clarification on. That could be a little bit more expensive than the other 2, but if we're interested in doing a colored water bottle versus the bigger or the white ones with the colored top, I can get the exact pricing on that. Yeah, so these would all be the drawstring, and the water bottles would be a 2 or 3 color imprint based on our logo. And then the helmets, we can decide if we want to, I know Tanner had brought up if we want to put a decal on it or just have them plain. The decal would go either, it's flexible, it could go on the side, it can go on the back, it can go on that little visor part. And it wouldn't be large. It would basically go from, if you look at the best see on the blue one, where that black line is on the bottom of the helmet up until the hole on the top. So, it wouldn't cover the whole helmet. It would fit in that space if we did it on the side. Yeah, happy to answer any other questions.
Yep.
Oh, sorry, Jed, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Sam. I was going to ask if there were questions.
Yeah, so I was digging through my email to find my response, and I guess it I never sent it, and it was a draft, so I just sent it now. I thought everything looked really good. I would advocate for the bottles in the middle. I think they'd be a little bit more fun, and in my experience, opaque pigments actually they stay better looking for longer. A print versus a water transfer decal is going to last way longer on those bottles. So just a little bit of an information of how they plan to print them. Bags look good. The only thing I wanted to double check with Carly on is the helmet. Actually, one of the questions in my email that I just sent was the price. If we're not going to get the helmet screen printed, which I think would be difficult and maybe not too desirable to people, it's not really like a merch item like a bottle or a bag is. I would think that through contacts my business has, we could get a actually nicer helmet and for far less. For instance, that price quoted is about twice the price that I have seen MOQ 100 helmets be costed at. On top of that, a 4 size run I think is actually complicating. There are pretty solid helmets out there that are only 2 sizes, one being a small medium, the other being a medium large. So this, if it's okay, I would like to dig into that, and I can do that this week just to see if there is a simple option.
You want to get that info to me then?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, if you can send us the info. Yeah, the price right now is based on it having, it's not screen printed. It's a
vinyl decal.
Almost like a vinyl, a little bit higher quality than a vinyl decal. It's a special process. But that includes that logo on there. So they would go down I have to get the exact pricing, but it would be about $2 to $2.50 less
Okay.
per piece. And there's some wiggle room in there if, you know, we need to get those prices of the helmets down, or if you did want to go to a nicer helmet, there's some other options also.
I'll throw my 2 cents in that I would probably prefer to stay away from the helmets as just a general item for the reason that Sam mentioned is you have to worry about stock and sizes, and that just gets, if we're not purchasing them for a specific event like the bike rodeo or something to donate, then I just think we're probably better just focusing on the water bottles and perhaps the bag, and you know, maybe put in some sort of a walking item, like is there a reflective band or like a vest that we can get relatively inexpensively?
Yeah, we could definitely do
To
that.
just include walking as well, since a lot of times people do remind us that that's in our name as well. I think that's it, but I mean, this all sounds good. I like the other items.
So, Colin, your reason for staying away from the helmets is just storing them?
Just storing them and just like sizing, and you know, now all of a sudden we're left with a bunch of shelf stock of, you know, large helmets in purple or something, and everybody looks at them and goes like, no, I don't want a helmet, thank you, I appreciate it, or ones that are too small. And you know, if we're gonna, I just personally, my feeling is that like if we're putting on an event and we're doing like a bike rodeo and we're doing that and we're buying helmets to give to kids, I think that's good, but just
Yeah, that was the idea, I think.
general
Well-
stock seems a little, I don't know.
Well,
We're not-
I thought,
we're not a
yeah,
retailer.
I mean, I hear what you're saying too, Colin, but I, like with Sam's Clinic and the bike month, I mean, I just think it's important because there's so many kids that don't have them, they can't afford them, and not everyone gets to that bike rodeo. I
Right.
think, Teresa, we have storage at the health department. But I thought Sam was, the
And
last
in
time
my
we met,
basement,
Sam
too.
was gonna look into this and get these
okay.
helmets through the, his group, which I think they look nicer than these. I don't know. I think we have to focus on the kids, not the adults for helmets. And
No, I agree about that. And so, I mean, maybe I wasn't clear as to what the purpose was. I thought these were just general swag giveaways and not being purchased for a specific thing. But
Yeah, no,
if this was like, I would almost rather see like, you know, if we're discussing the swag, this is like about general swag to hand out for things
Yeah.
like your scavenger hunt.
yeah,
We have a line item for the helmets purchased for the bike rodeo, and if we have
Right.
some kid sizes left over afterwards, we just roll it over to the next year.
yep,
All right.
you're right, it's separate.
So I think, well, the question tonight is, do we want to dedicate $2,000 to swag? And maybe we can revisit this next month when Tanner is back here and finalize what we're going to do. Sam, that would give you a chance to get your info to me on the helmets.
Yep, I'm actually dropping in the chat right now a helmet that one of our suppliers actually makes. If I can find it, but yeah, I'm gonna definitely update you and Carly this week on that, Judd.
Okay. Okay.
This may be a stupid thing, but is for Carly, is they water bottles? Are they like recyclable, like the sustainable materials and everything that we're using? And I
Yeah, they
also
would-
go there.
They would be recyclable, but also reusable, so.
Okay, yeah. And then what about swag like candy, like for these tables that we have, like just candy?
We-
You know?
We talked about that. This is what we came up with, you know, trying to fit into that $2,000 budget. So, you know, if the next item for our budget for our 10,000 is bike racks. And Greg, I don't know what you had in mind in terms of cost on that for us.
I mean, it all depends on, location, last year we kind of just, or even 2 years ago now at this point, we kind of just bought 5 bike racks and didn't have a location. where to put them. So, it all depends. I know Tanner, when I was on a call from last week, he had mentioned, a couple locations for a bike rack, but he wasn't sure if the commission wanted to purchase the bike racks or wanted the city to purchase them. So that's something that we probably need to discuss as far as what locations are we looking at to put the bike racks, and not just buying the bike racks just to buy them.
Right.
Just to have that so they're not sitting around while we decide where to put them. Because like I alluded to, we want to, buy consistent bike racks that fit the theme of the area, and keep them consistent so people know that those are bike racks, so they're not confused.
I just want to go back. Sam had a great idea for the Oyster Festival, like to have a bike corral. And I don't really know, is that something that, do we purchase that, or is that something that's free and we just make a section in the Oyster Festival for that?
I think that for parking.
Yeah, it was valet bike parking. That was actually really easy to set up. The only reason we didn't end up doing it is because of COVID. So definitely something to consider in years to come. Any event, I think, would be great.
But we don't need to purchase anything for that. There's nothing like
No.
infrastructure.
In that instance, Cannondale is going to provide A-frames, which are, bike stands. You just hang the bikes by the saddle.
Okay. So, Greg, in terms of bike racks, I mean, the city is capable of buying them. And it seems to me like we're kind of trying to work out a standard for these loop bike racks. Maybe the commission shouldn't even be buying bike racks this time around.
Yeah, we're ordering, the two for the Main Street lot and for the police department. We're obviously looking at Washington Street to put more in there. We're buying, the shelter, for the train station. So there is a lot of, we do have, and like you mentioned before, we do have a lot of existing racks as well. So, it could be even just updating some of the existing racks, that are kind of older and, in those locations. We just don't want to buy bike racks just to have bike racks sitting around.
Okay.
For locations. So, if you're interested, that's a discussion that the commission needs to have as far as if there's anything else that you guys want to buy. But yeah, we are purchasing a good number of bike racks coming up.
Okay. Last year, I believe we purchased the pedestrian crossing yield to pedestrians at crosswalk signs. And
correct.
My memory is the city gets a fair amount of requests for those. Is that correct, Greg?
So we gave the ones that you guys had purchased last year went to the schools. So the schools have them and they're distributing them. I think they were the last time I spoke with Joanna, they were going to wait until the weather got a little nicer because the snow and everything. And then they were going to put them out, this coming year, once the weather kind of gets a little better outside. So yeah, that's another potential option as well. I don't know if it's another bike repair stand or, it's like I said, it's up to the commission to decide.
Okay. The pedestrian crossing signs, what's the cost on those?
I believe I think they were like $350 a piece, $400 a piece.
Okay.
I don't know if that was last year, so I don't know. It could be closer to 500 now. I don't know. Going by what everything costs these days. So we'd have to look into that.
Okay. And we have roughly 10,000 to spend.
Yeah, roughly. Yeah. Cause also don't forget, cause you also have the expenses, a little expense here, expense there, but for the most part, yeah, about $10,000. Yeah.
Okay. So I think we should pick this up again next month. And then maybe, and I can put together a whole spreadsheet with everything on it, the league membership.
Yeah, I definitely think things need to be, quantified a little bit, just so you okay, so after these expenses, we have, X amount of dollars left. We want to spend $2,000 on swag. So that means we have this amount left. So I definitely think that that needs to be done. And then just, you know, if everybody wants to, you know, give their input on what they want to, you know, put the rest of the money in. So like,
Okay.
it doesn't have to be decided this month, but you know.
Well, but maybe by next month, right?
Well, I mean, you know, not too late. Just don't wait until June. That's all we're asking. Don't wait till June.
So I'll add to this spreadsheet that's up now, and Greg, maybe I'll get back to you later in the week if you can nail down that cost for the pedestrian crossing signs, and if there is a need for them.
Okay.
And then
Yeah,
also,
I'll have to find more out from customer service and see if there's any you know, a growing number of people requesting them.
okay, and if anybody has any other ideas, let me know, and I'll put it in this spreadsheet for next month. So does that sound good?
Mhm.
Good.
Okay. And I think that covers everything for this month. So is there anything else anybody wants to bring up?
Yeah, Judd, I just have the Norwalk Redevelopment Agency with the city is hosting a public meeting on Wednesday for the Harbor Loop Trail
right.
and Sono Wharf project that we've been working on.
Okay.
So the info is on the Redevelopment Agency website. You can register for the webinar there. And we'll be presenting 2 concepts for public input. And anything you guys want to advocate for. It'll mostly concentrate on the wharf side, since the 2 locations on the east side for those infill pieces of the trail are pretty straightforward. But if this is a good time to advocate for the trail connection, any bike facilities, walking facilities, and the overall design of the park.
Okay. Okay. I know I got that email. I don't know if anybody else had, but okay. Anything else? No? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Second.
Chris,
Third.
second. All right.
Third.
Okay.
Aye.
We'll close the meeting and
Have a good night.
all right. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Joe.
Bye.